Welcome again to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing an Angular project. This is a simplified project just to help anyone who is still learning Angular or who has just picked up Angular, to get some experience or get to know your way around by building a simple app. So this app I'm going to be building is a simple job portal. Uh, just has jobs by different companies, and someone is able to click on a job, view the details, and also apply for the job. This is a simple one. It is a minimalist version. So let's just get started. I'm just going to the directory where I want to put my project, or where I put my Angular projects. And so to create a new project with Angular, you use a directive called ng new, and you just call your project a name. Just call it grow, right? And so that particular line of directives will tell the CLI to generate or to scaffold a project under that name. And that's kind of a lot of files that get generated, and you don't have to do that yourself. It just gets done automatically. So this is asking if I want to add the routing. Definitely I want. And so if you're at this level and you're wondering how do I install Angular, or what do I need to start, you need to install the CLI. That is Angular's command line interface. In this video, I don't want to go through that because then that would be too long, but there are so many hundreds and thousands of videos on YouTube on how to do that. So I'm assuming you already have everything that you need installed in your machine and you're ready to go. So yes, I want routing, and for CSS, so you'd use your mouse to decide on what you want to use as for your style sheet. Here I want to use CSS. And so the process starts. It is installing hundreds of packages. They are probably even more than 100. But yeah, that kind of helps you get started right away, and which is a good thing. And I think a lot of frameworks all have this capability. Even if it is React, it will you'll enter in lines of commands and it will scaffold an application for you. Okay, so that's already done. I just click Control and C to get out of there. And so now I want to navigate to that file that has been created. And so now I'm at the root of my application, and I do code dot to open VS Code. Okay, so now VS Code is opened, and it has opened in the root of our new project. So these are all the files and the different packages that we are getting installed when we created the application. And there are so many. For example, you can see all these different modules that were automatically created. Very many. You don't need to go through all of them. It's not necessary. So the source is how we access or we work with our application. So if I open that, there's app, assets, environments, etc, etc. And so we are going directly to app. And so with the app, this is where the application is, and this is where we are going to spend I think 90% of the time in this particular directory. So you can see we have the app module. This is like the center. This is like the heartbeat or the brain of the application. So you'll see us go to this file a lot. And there's also this, the app component. This, we are not going to work with it in this particular case. I mean, so this is like the default page or component of the application. It is like where the application starts from. This is the spec.ts is used for testing if you're writing tests for your application. And then there is the app component.html. So this is app component.html. This is app.modules.ts. So this, the module.ts talks to this, right? And so this is now how our application starts. But we need to go in and see how does our application look like at this moment. So I'm going to open a terminal, new terminal, and try to run this application and see how it looks like. So to run your application, the command is ngserve. And so when you do that, it kind of compiles and builds the application. Which is what it is doing right now. Okay, so it's done compiling it, and it has given us a URL to see our application. So if you click on control and you click on this link, you'll open it and you can see here it is. So this is our application, and this is how it looks like. So this is now all of this content is what you're seeing. Let me put it side by side. Right, so that clearly see. So all this content you're seeing here is this, but we want to get rid of this. We don't need to waste time with this, so I'll remove it. And if I save, so you see if you have the server extension installed and you just save, it automatically reruns the app. So I've removed all that content. I'll just start with something small so that you see it. So you can see I've put hello world in the app component and you can see it here. So that is one thing. Now let's start off building our application. So I said it is going to be it's going to be a job portal with different jobs. So we are going to have like cards of jobs, like how Indeed is, right? So let's not waste time. Let's start right away. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to add a header or a navigation bar. And to do that, we don't want to put everything in here because it will look congested. But so let's do the pages alone, and then things like the navigation, the header, we do them alone also in their own folder. So I'll come back to the application itself, and I will add a directory or a folder called components. And so in this component, we are going to add the header. So it is selected, and I will click. And so the way you add components in Angular is different. You just don't add a file. Instead, you generate a component. So to do that, you can see I have this extension. I have this option. When I right click on the folder, it gives me options to generate a component, a module, pipe, service, etc, etc. But what I want is to generate a component. That's because every page in Angular is called a component. And in Angular, what happens? It is called a single page application. So what happens with usual applications is that when you go from one page to another, like it completely removes the page from the browser and then fetches another page from the server and loads it in the same area. But that's not what we want. So what we want, or what Angular does, is that the page is just the same. It is a single page. And what happens is that every time you call a different component or page, the page stays the same. It just replaces, right? So with normal websites, it will just go to a different page, right? It will leave that page, go to a different page. But with Angular, it's the same page. It just, like how you have cards and you swipe one for the other, or like how you have a box and then you just remove one thing and put another and another. So that's how it is. So let's start adding components. So there are many ways to add components. One is using the terminal. And if you don't want to use the terminal, you can come here and right click. But to do this, you can right click and get these options. However, these don't automatically come with VS Code, because definitely you can see this is for Angular. You need to install an extension. You come here and install this extension. I think it is Angular schematics, this one right here. So you want to install that extension. If you have an extension, you come here, right click, and generate component. You call your component a name. Since it's a navigation, I want to call it nav. Okay, so now we have our component, right? And so each component you generate comes with 4 files. It comes with a TypeScript. You see nav.component.typescript. Comes with a test file called spec.ts. You can see it's nav.component.spec.ts. It comes with the HTML file as well, and you can see nav.component.html, and it comes with its own CSS. So this is built for modularity, because they don't want to pack everything into the style.css file. It will become very congested and the application will become heavy. So the way Angular works is they are trying to modularize the application so that you only load the resources that you need for the application instead of loading everything. So this is the structure of every nav.component.css. This is auto-generated for you, and this will be the testing file that I talked about, and this will be the HTML file. So for now, in the HTML file, if you visit this page, this is all you will see. nav works, right? And the CSS, but we're always going to be working with, mostly in this particular section, we are going to be working with the component and the template. Template is HTML, component is TS. All right, so let's get started. But before we do, every time we generate a component, especially when we right click and generate a component like we've generated now, we need to tell the application, our entire app, we need to tell Angular, all our entire app, about this new component that we have created. And so we go here to the root of the entire application, and we have to add that. But before we do, let me show you something. So we have the nav right here, and I'll just say, and you can see this is a normal HTML file. This is our nav bar, right? But you're wondering, you're not seeing it. So how do you get to see this nav bar? So first of all, you come to its TS file and you need to get this selector, right? This app nav. So every component will have its own selector. So you get it and you go to the HTML root. Remember, I said the app component HTML and the app component, the TS, is where our application starts from. It's like the root of application. So instead of this, actually I can leave that there. I'm going to come and add that selector. Okay, so now we should see our navigation, but well, it says there's an error, and it says AppNav is not a known element. All right. So how come it's not a known element, yet we've created it, and you can see it's giving you an error? So you need to go back to the app module. Like I said, this is the heart or the brain of our application, and like a normal brain works, the brain, like your body's brain, was every single thing in your body, right? You have the legs, somehow they are connected to your brain. You have your hands and your fingers, your stomach, your intestines, your skin senses, your hair senses, like everything is connected to the brain, and the brain knows about it. And so this is the app module file. So every time we create a component, we have to let our brain know about it. And to do that, we are going to import it. So it is the nav component, right? And you can see if you have IntelliSense, which is also another extension, it will automatically sense where this component is. The nav component, you can see it is in components, which is here, nav component, and this is it. And you see this is the nav component, and this is the nav component class that we are importing. So if I go back to my app module, you can see it is here, the same thing. But this is not enough to just import it. That is why it is grayed out, because yes, you have imported it, but this means you're not using it. That's why it's grayed out. So you have to come to the declarations and add it, nav component. And if we save now, our error should disappear. Right, so we are good. You can see now, if I go back to our nav.html file, it is here and it is showing up, right? So And where are we calling it? Here. So this is our brain. We say this is our brain, and these are the elements. So these are things. This is our brain. So maybe this is one, like the central part of the brain. This is the other part of the brain, and then this is the display part of the brain, right? So we have this hello world, which is here, and we have the up nav. So now we don't need the hello world. Let's get rid of it, and we have our navigation here. So I'll close those because we don't need them now. But we actually, so we already have this, so I can close this as well. This is a nav. So let's work on a nav and see how it works. We'll see how we can change it. So to do that, to decorate it and everything, I'm going to use CSS. Now, like I said, every component has a CSS. We can go in here and decorate our P and say maybe the color is aquamarine, and you see our color changes. But personally, this is a personal choice. I don't like using like the native or the vanilla CSS. Other people, if you see other videos or other tutorials, they use Bootstrap, but I prefer a different version that is called Tailwind. And so I'm going to install Tailwind now. So the Tailwind Angular. So Tailwind is really easy. It comes with you just state a class, and it has like class predefined. So like this will be predefined, and you don't have to go in and say I want a text to be maybe 80 pixels or 40 pixels, or I want it to be bold. You just do these things and it will automatically apply the CSS natively in the background. So we have to install that, and we start right here. So you copy this, install the Tailwind CSS post CSS auto prefixer, and then the Tailwind CSS initializer. So let's copy this and go back to our root right here and paste that, press enter, and that should automatically install CSS and the necessary dependencies. And so once it is done, you see it auto-generates a file called tailwind.config.js, so which is right here. And so here they're saying we go to that and add this inside the content array, and then we go ahead and we add these directives inside our style.css. So this style.css is like the root CSS of the entire application. So I add those and save. I'll stop my application from running and rerun it again. If I refresh, nothing happens, definitely, because we've not made any changes. I'm going to make sure you save your changes. So if I come back to our file here, and so with CSS, with Tailwind, you just say class, and then they are predefined classes. For example, you can see here, text 3XL is going to enlarge our text right here. If I save that, you can see it automatically applies all these things in the background. And if you hover over a certain class, the definition, it will show you what that actually does. So Text3XL is a class that has font size of 1.87 rem, which is the same as 30 pixels, and line height, which is okay, this and 36 pixels. So we don't even have to write this, you just type only this and it automatically applies all this. And I think that is very important. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And I will start designing my navigation. So class, I'll give it a background of blue 500. And yeah. Okay. So you won't see anything because this is a container, there's nothing in there. And so I want to put in a div in here. Give it a class of max width 7XL, and the margin on X on the X that is left and right to be auto. So what I want is for it to center the nav. So let me just put like 2 links. So that is called grow, and we also have another link called my jobs or my my jobs. So assuming that this website is going to be used by different companies, so each company will have its own profile and it will have its own jobs where it can add jobs, edit jobs, delete jobs, you know, post more jobs, so stuff like that. Okay, so now we have our nav, and this is just to center it. So if I expand it, you'll see that when the screen becomes bigger, it automatically centers the header. Now to show you guys clearly, I'll just color this with some pink kind of color, right? And so you can see it right here, that on big screens it centers this automatically. Okay, so I want this to be further apart, make that a flex, and justify between. So all these are different classes, and so you can see it has separated that. However, I want it to have space even on smaller screens. I'll say that this happens from a medium screen. So this is just for responsiveness, and so you can see if I hover over here, it says from a minimum width of 768 pixels, it will apply this. It will make the width this, right? And so the same thing here. It says if from the screen of 768, it will apply these CSS properties, right? So if we go back, you can see that when the screen hits 768, and so you see it applies those values, those properties. But I want it on smaller screens. I want this to be 10, so that there's 6, so that there's also space on both ends. Okay, and so I also want to put the padding top and bottom, which is PY, the 10, and 6, maybe 4. Okay, so far, and here I'm just going to decorate these values with in a different way. So I'll give them the color, sorry, the text. Text. Text 50. I'll make this semi-bold. I think that is font, right? Semi-bold. So that becomes white because it's. I'm going to remove this pink. I just want it to. And I will apply the same link. I'm in the same styling on the next link as well. But I don't want this to be bold. Alright, so let me get rid of this because this was just to show you the centering. Okay, so we are good to go. And now in Angular, we don't use href. We use something else that I will show you shortly. But actually, I should show you that now. So this is the one I have, but I want to create these components so that you can see we already have. I mean, this is the home page is going to be here. And so let's go on and create the home page. So now the home page is going to be a list of jobs, right? So I'm going to come here. So this is a component. I said components alone, those are like small sections. If we had the route, the footer would put it down here, but I'm not going to create a footer. So now I'll come back to the application and create another folder for the pages. So the different pages that we are going to create. So let me come back here and create another folder. I will call it pages. Okay. So now inside the pages, I'm going to, and I think I should show you now how to create components using the terminal. Because if I use a terminal, I don't have to come back to the brain of the application to add this. It will automatically be added by the Angular CLI, right? So I'll come back here. I have to navigate to app to, because now I'm at the root right here. So I need to navigate to source app pages, and then I can create the components or the pages that I want to create. So to do that, I'm going to say cd, where we go to source, go to app, go to pages. Okay, now we are here. Now to generate a component, you use a command called ng generate component. So usually people can write like generate component, right? But I don't want to write that. That made it easy for us. So you just say ng generate component, and the list of jobs. Let's call this page jobs list, right? So this is going to be our home page. Okay, so we've created that, and you can see, like it did with the navigation, it has created for different files: the HTML, the spec.ts, the .ts, and the CSS. So it is here. If we go to pages, you can see jobs. It creates a folder for each page that we are creating, or for each set of components that we are creating. It creates a folder. So here it has created a folder called inside pages. It has created a page, a folder called jobs list. Inside there, it has put the component.css, the HTML, the test file, and the TS. Right. So for us to be able to see what is happening in here, actually, before we do this, let me show you that now the brain, if we use the terminal, the brain of the application automatically adds whatever it is that we create with the terminal. So you can see jobs list component has been added, it has been imported and added automatically. We didn't have to do that. But if we are using this option where we click and generate component, we'd have to do this. So that is done. I'll close that. Now, this is the HTML of the jobs list, and this is a component. So each component will have the TS file, the HTML file. It has also this, but we are mostly working with the TS and the HTML. Okay, so this is where our application now starts. But before we go to this, I also want to generate this my jobs. So I'll come back here. I'm already in pages. ng generate component my jobs. Okay, so now go back to pages, which is right here. You can see I have jobs list, which I created here. Right here. We also have my jobs, which I've just created right here. And each of them has those four files. Okay, so let's go back to our navigation and add the links, because you can see now these are not links, right? So, but before we do that, there's a file called routing module, this particular file. So this file is very important because this file tells the application, this is the nervous system. If we are talking about the brain, this is the nervous system of the application. It will tell the application how to get from one place to another. For example, if I'm here in at the Tailwind page, so if I click here, you can see I'm at the home page, right here. If I go to docs, you can see I'm in the docs section. I go to components, see how all these things change, right? If I go to blog, you can see how the URL changes. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to tell application how to navigate to different sections, all components of application. So we already have the nav section and we have the links. So before that, we're supposed to go to routing and add those routes. So we come to routes, that array. And we start adding our routes. So the first one is like the home route. And to add that, we just say path, which is home. Definitely, you know that every home page usually is just like how we saw tailwind.com. It has no extra dash in front of it. Okay, so then we add this, and so we are redirecting it to the home page, and we say that on home page will be the job list. And if we go to the jobs list TypeScript file, we have this selector, and I told you this is how we point to each component. So we need this, and remember we did that here in the app component, the TS file, when we wanted to call the navigation, we took that selector. So here I'm going to take that selector, the app routing, and add it there. And and actually we don't need to, we could actually call this anything. You know, we could even call it jobs, but I'll call it jobs list so that we are, aligning with the structure of how we are naming our components. Okay, and then you add service. Okay, so that is now already the home of the page, the home of our component. However, we need also to tell it that if the route has jobs list, and here it is different now. We are going to add the component, and the component is jobs list component, right? So when you're supposed to import them, but because I have IntelliSense, when I type it in, it is automatically imported. If you don't have it imported, for example, this, you'll see this give you an error because it doesn't know about this, and you'd have to come in and say import jobs list component from what was pages jobs list component, right? So I mean, to spare yourself the entire headache, just install IntelliSense and it will do everything for you. And then we are going to also add this route now to this component that we have created, the my jobs. And so we are going to say to get to that, it is my jobs, and the component we are referring to is my job component. Right. Okay, so now we can go back to our navigation and add those links using a directive called router link. So this router link to home is jobs list, and for this particular one, router link, this is my jobs. Okay, so now that that is done, let's see, it's 17. Let's see where my no, I think I forgot and added what shouldn't be there. Okay, so now our links are working fine, and so you can see this that home references jobs list, which is what you're seeing here, and which is what we defined here, right? Okay, so that's it. So you can see the URL changes here. If I go here, right, it changes. So that is done for now. So we are going to go back to our jobs list. So I'm going to create, close that. So we are here now. I'm going to create a list of jobs that we are going to be able to see. And to do that, I'm just going to add a local file to my project, and I'll just add it in the app, and I will call it jobs.ts. Okay, so first of all, you create the interface of how a job should look like. So here we're defining the blueprint or the structure of our job. I'm saying a job will have an ID, and it will be a string. It will have a title of the job. It will also be a string. It will have the company which is advertising the job. That will also be a string. And it will have the job description. And that will also be a string, right? Then now we are going to create an array of jobs. So export jobs of type job array, and that will be an array of jobs. Okay. So, oh sorry, because it's a variable, that's why it is complaining. So we're going to create fake jobs, and instead of typing one by one, I think I have a file somewhere that has a list of jobs that I can use. Okay, so this is a list of our jobs, right? And so these are the jobs that we are going to populate right here. So that's created and exported. You can see export and export. So I'll close this. So I'll come here and declare jobs of type job. I have an array of type job, and that will be an empty array. So this is complaining because it doesn't know about job. So we have to import it. Import job from source. So this is the file that we created, and so this is the interface, and we are saying I want an array of jobs of type job, and so I want it to be an empty array, and so we are going to come here and be able to get these jobs. So to do that, I'm going to say that this jobs is equal to fake jobs, but it doesn't know about the fake jobs that we are talking about here. So we are going to call these jobs right here. So to call them, they are in the same file. Fake jobs. Right. Oh, calling jobs. Calling fake jobs. So I'm able to differentiate when I'm calling them. Okay, so I've imported it, and so we are going to say that is equal to the fake jobs. Okay, so now we have our jobs in this variable. So to see them, we are going to go into the .html file right here and get rid of this. But now you're probably wondering how come we are no longer seeing this word. So how do we get to see this word again? So like I said, we go back to the brain of our application, and you know it's different brain areas, and so we have let me just extend this here so that you guys can see. So in here we have this where we are calling the app nav, but if we are to see also this component, we need to add it here. And so if I add it, and you need to know the selector for it, which is right here, app jobs list. I'm copying it, but you don't even need to copy it. If you just come and start typing here, if you have IntelliSense installed as an extension, it should just get them for you. So that's it. Okay. And so if I do that, you can see that I'm now able to get the template, which is the HTML of this jobs list, and you can see it says jobs list works. I just can see it is updated automatically. Okay, so we have our jobs that we've gotten in the TypeScript file for the jobs list, and now we have to display them in the template, which is the HTML. And to do that, let's first create a div, right? And inside this div, let's first decorate it so that plus. So I'm going to use the same thing and say from medium, say max width 7xl, and then say mx auto, right? And next auto, and let's give it a padding of y which is equal to 6, so that it has space both up and down. And then let's add in another div. And so for this div, we are going to start populating. So this div is going to be a card, the different cards. And so to create the different cards, we are going to use a directive called ng. So these are some of the directives that Angular has. You can read more about them in the Angular documentation. So we select job of jobs. So this already knows about the jobs because we define them in its component, and so the template now knows about them. So how do we see the content? So we also use these what do they call them, like brackets, I've forgotten what they call them, but this is how you these are mostly used for interpolation, but this is how you display the data in an HTML file. So we're saying that for each job, we want to see the job dot, and so you can see, I call it job dot, it is already getting what every job should have. So it knows every job should have an ID, a title, a description, and a company. And so if you get here, then you know, okay, it is working. So let's start with the title. And so you can see it has brought all the titles. And also the job dot the company that is advertising the job, and the job that's forgot the brackets by the side. So we have company, title, and description. Right, so here we have all our data showing up, but this is not how we want it to look. Right, so we have to decorate it. So this is one job, another job, another job, and another. Okay, so let's decorate this so that it looks nice. And to do that, let me just wrap this in an entire div. And give this a class of bg. Let me first give it a darker color so that we're able to see what is going on. Height, screen, and I want it to be the entire screen. And so for each card, I want to give it a class of shadow so that you can see how it looks like. I think I need to, I just have to put this in here. I don't think so. Let me just, so this is this container. What I want to do is give it margin of 6 on the left and the right, yeah, so that the content is off the edges, just like the header. Okay, so this should be flex, and set up a container. I'll make it a grid because I want these boxes. Let me first fix a different background so that we are seeing the cards clearly. but I need spacing that is going to come. So I'm going to give it a grid because I want to be able to see each, so that when it's on a huge screen, they are like boxes, and on a larger screen, yeah, on a smaller screen, they are like this horizontal. So I'll say the screen of medium and above, and grid calls favorite. So let's see how this. So yeah, that's what I want. And I'm going to give them a gap of 4. So you can see each is separated. However, I want to give them round edges. It's rounded. I want to give them padding. Okay, so this looks much better. Padding 6. So this is what I want. If the screen is huge, they are vertical and thin. But if it's small, I mean, if the screen is big, they are horizontal. I'm not sure, okay. I'm not sure it's horizontal or vertical. And if it's small, they are, like in column form. Okay. So that's done. But I want to add a button. Say the job. I need to decorate it with classes. I'll make the background blue 500, make it 100, but when I cover it should be blue 500. I want to give it padding left and right, left, and bottom and up, bottom and top of 2. Just want to make it rounded, and I want to make the text white. Okay, so that's it. Instead, I want to also decorate this so that it looks different, and so that will be text to make it bold. It is font semi bold. The text should be extra large. So I'll do some like this, but I'll make the text normal, and then I'll give this some padding top and bottom, and so give this padding bottom, margin bottom. So that there's space between the button and okay. So now when we click on this button, we want to go to the details of this job. But now when we click on it, there's nothing changes. So let's change that. So we are going to create now another component called job details. So let's go back to our pages right here. We're already there. Say ng generate component job details. Making some ng generate component job details. Okay, and so It has created all the 4 files, and it has also updated the brain of application and told it, it has told it about this new component that we have created. So we don't need to go to the app modules now. So that's already sorted. So I'll close this out. But before I do, I need to tell this button when I click on it to go to that particular component which I've just created, which is here from job details, and I want it to come to the job details. So how do I do that? I'll first come and add this class to our routing. I told you this is like the nervous system of our application, and it needs to know about everything in the body. So we go back to app routing and we add that particular path. And so how will that path look like? It will be path, and it will be job details, but then it will have an ID, right? Because this job has a different ID, and that is how we are able to specify what job we are looking at. So each job has an ID, and so when we click on it, we'll go to job details dot dash. You get it? So let me first complete this, and then I will show you. So the components. Okay. The component that we want to go to is job details. And so when I add that, you see it automatically imports it. If it doesn't automatically import it, you'll have to go in and just enter it, and just import it manually. But with the right extensions, you just type it, it will automatically sense it and import the file that you want to use. Okay, so that is entered, and so now we have this route. So if I come here and I go to job details, just add anything, you can see the path has changed, right? It has this path. So it is not able to go to a different page because we've not told the application on how to go to a different page. Now to do that, we finish this. We are going to go to the back to our app is brain. So there's app module, and then we are going to go to the template right here. And instead of just importing only this component here, we are going to use another command called router. Another directive called router outlet right here. And so what this is doing, what the router outlet does, is it is telling the application that this app nav will stay here, but it is telling that the application that this section of the page will be used to load different components depending on the routing, right? So that is what the router outlet does, right? So if I come here and go back to this routing that we had talked about, I go to job details 1, see, goes there. And so where is it getting job details? Works. It is getting it from this, because this is the folder for the job details. And now you can see it is working. It shows the job details working. Okay, so let's not waste time. Let's start working right away. Now, the structure is going to be the same, just that it's going to be displaying one job. However, let me go back to jobs list. This background is too dark. This is 200. And this is enough. So I'm just going to use the same layout to avoid typing everything again. So remember, we are working close everything else. They're working in the job details. So I'm just going to add in that first div. And let's navigate right here. So that we see what we are doing, job details. Okay. So that's there. And we now just back on if I type anything, so you can see we are right here. Okay, so what we want to do is to click on this job and go to this area. So let's go back to the listings and tell this button that when we click you, go to the next page. So the HTML, this is a button, and we've already looked at the router link. So however, for this case, I want to use it in a different style. It's really not different, but I prefer using it this way. And so we are going to tell it that you should go to the job details, right, and get the job.id. So when we click here, we go to the other side, right? And so that's what happens. And you can see the ID. You can see it's getting the ID of that particular job. Same thing here. Okay. So, yep, we are cool. Yes, so take this div. So I'll close out of there. We have everything we need from there. I'm not going to be iterating over anything, so get rid of that. Okay. Just leave some text so that we see what's going on. Okay, so now how do we get each job? So we come back to the component file of the job details, and we are now going to get the job. So we are looking for a particular job, right? And so we say we want a job of type job, right? And if it doesn't exist, return undefined. Of course, it doesn't know about the job, so we have to import it. You can see I don't have to type much, it just senses it. I could also have just clicked on it, press Control and dot, and it says import. So that's a different option. You don't have to go in and type everything, guys. Don't waste your time with that. Okay, so now we have this, but we need to, when we are navigating from all the jobs, right? When we are navigating from here to here, we want to capture this ID so that we are able to return that particular job. So for example, right here, we want to capture this ID so that we are able to get the details of this particular job, right? And so to do that, we are going to use a different class that I'm going to define here called activated route, and it automatically imports it if you're using the right extensions. If not, you'd have to first come in here and just revert real quick. You'd have to come in and say import. So this is a different package as well. Activated route from angular.router. So that's how you get that package, and then you have to come in out. Okay, so here we are, this is called dependency injection, right? So we are injecting activated route into the application using the constructor. So we are able to use it in our application. So how do we get the ID? We say const job ID will be equal to this dot route dot snapshot dot paramap dot get know that is lengthy, but you don't have to cram it if you don't want. I'm sure there are resources that you can always just get it from. But eventually you'll just be able to get it. Okay, so now we have the job ID, right? And I think if we console.log, we should be able to get it. The job ID is. So I'm using interpolation. That's why I've used backticks. This is not like how do they call them? I'm using backticks, right? So job ID. So I want to see if we are able to get a job ID. So I want to get my console, which is right here. So if I navigate, you can see I'm getting the job ID. And here you can see I'm getting the job ID. So that's working fine. We're doing that line. And so what we want to do now is to get a job depending on that particular job ID. So to do that, we have already declared a job variable. You can say this job is equal to fake jobs. You'd have to import this again. Or if you had just typed in here, it would have gotten imported and added there. Just fake jobs dot find. So we say find, and we use callback function to find a job. Use job.id. Say find a job is job.id is equal to the job ID that we've gotten from the route. Okay, so now we already have a job, and we saw that if we click on here, we'll get the ID of the job, which is here. And now we're saying look through this data and find a job whose job ID is equal to this. Okay, so we have the jobs here. We are saying go through these jobs, find a job whose job ID is what we've clicked on, which is right here. So how do we see this job? So for example, if we click here, we go to this template right here. So what we want to do right now is to be able to see those details of the jobs. So I'm going to use the same styling that we used the other time, and actually to avoid wasting time, I'm just going to copy the whole of these details, right? Like the H2, H3, because I don't want to type everything again, that will waste time. So I'll just put that here, right? And so I think I did save this file. That's why the HTML is wondering what kind of job I'm talking about. Right. So job, see. So because anyway it's doing this. So here we told it that, and this is how TypeScript works. Okay, so because we told it that a job should either have a job object or undefined if there's no job object. And so here it needs to show that the object is possibly undefined. And so to do that, we're just going to add the question mark or just call it a null operator. And so yeah, it is just saying that it will accept to show null if the object doesn't exist. Okay, so here we are, and we are getting our job. Don't mind this doesn't seem to work, but on a smaller screen it does. On medium it's supposed to, but So that works fine, and it is what we want. However, we'll just get rid of this directive because it doesn't make sense here. So if we go back to the home, if I click on this, I want to get details of this particular job. That's what we are doing right here. Same thing here. Same thing here. So this is what we want, right? Okay, so that is good and well. However, I want to change this button here to say that you have now apply. Okay, and so that said, we are going to go into a different other page where to get to this job, there's a form that you fill, and then you send it and you apply for that particular job. So to do that, now we are done with this particular component, and I'll close it. And now we are going to create another component called job contact. Job contact. So it's right here, and it has been created. So now that our component has been created, we need to add it to the app routing, like every other component that we create. If we want to see it, we need to add it to the app routing. And so I'm going to call it job contact, and it will also have an ID because we want to navigate to that particular job's ID. And then the component. Okay, so now that we've added that, if I come here and I get that, and I try to navigate to that, let's say one. Okay, so our navigation is working great, right? And you can see it has a job contact stroke ID. So let's work on this quickly. And to work on that, I'm just going to just copy the HTML so that we don't waste time redoing this, because this is just the same. Job contact right here. I'll just leave that here. And div. Cool. So this is our contact page, and so let's, as you know, that with every component we have to go to its TypeScript to get the data itself. So I'll go back here, and again I'll declare a job of type job. Defined. I need to import the job. Control dot. Import it, and then we also have to get the activated route using dependency injection. Private route, activated route, right here. Just click on it; it automatically imports it. If you're not able to automatically import it, you have to come in and just import it manually. Okay, so now let's go to this job. First of all, we are going to get an ID, and then be able to navigate to that particular job for that particular ID. So do that. We start from first job ID. This route snapshot dot param dot get, so that this gets the ID from the URL of the current page we are at to the following page, and then say this dot job is equal to fake jobs. Sorry, fake jobs dot find. So a job, we use callback function to find a job whose ID is equal to the job ID we got from the URL. So now we have our job. And say, so now that we have our job, just close that. So now that we have our job, we go back to the template, and we are going to just have a heading on what kind of job we are applying for. So let's say job dot title. Let's say from the title just apply for to buy job.com. Right. So cool. So just make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So now we're going to dive into another section of Angular, which is the form. And we are going to use reactive forms. There are two types of forms, but I prefer using react forms, and I think it is the current trend or the in use because it's much easier. And so to use react forms, we need to go back to the brain of our application and tell it about a module that we are going to use. It is called reactive forms module, and we have to add it to the import. So realize the components are in a different section where there's declarations, but the imports are in a different section as well, which is the imports. So these are modules, these are just components. So I'm going to add it to tell our app that we are going to use a module called reactive forms. And even here you see when we are using app routing, we added it as a module where we've been adding all our routes. Okay, even the browser capabilities is a module called browser module, and you can also see that it is originally imported when you scaffold an application. Okay, so I'll close that. Then I'll go back here and show you guys how reactive forms works. So first, we're going to import a package called builder, right? And what we do is we declare our form, and we say maybe we call it job form, and it is of type form module. Yes, it is of type form module, and Angular is telling us that it needs to have initial value. So here we'll just tell it that it can just be undefined as well, right? And then we need to use dependency injection to use the form builder package. Form builder. Okay. So now I'll say this dot form is equal to this dot fb dot group. Oh, this I'm actually defining this outside of the ng on it method. That's why it's not working. So it's supposed to be this job form is equal to this dot fb dot group, and so now we declare the values that we want in this particular form. And so the first one is the full name, and that we can just initialize it as empty, which, and then we also need an email of this person that is applying, and then we'll also need what else? Maybe just to show the structure, just put this here. Just add a message just to show the form, the structure of the form. So we have declared our form now, and can go to the template and show it right here. So I'll go back to the job contact, and after this, so let's go into designing the form. But you know, you don't want to waste time with things that are already created. So the tailwind already has forms, so I can say tailwind forms, and so there's already forms created, so there's no need you should waste time unless you're trying to customize it. But in this case, I just want to show how a simple form looks like. So I can just copy this. Actually, I'll just copy just the form. And I'll just add it right here. Okay. So I have to customize a few things. Label this full name. So we don't have to waste time writing all this CSS, text cells. Then the input. Now to get the actual input, actually I don't need ID because CSS uses different properties. Could leave. I don't actually also need the placeholder. Okay. So here with Angular, I would say form control name, and that is what we have here. So for this value, I'm referring to this value here. So if you're to send this data to the database or something to fetch the data that is filled within this form, the form control name is what would take that value. The next one is email. I'll get rid of checking. So this is meant for validation, like that was meant if someone puts in the wrong password or stuff, you would have to tell them to put the right one, but we're not going to go into validation today. So I'll also get rid of this. The type, okay, the IDs, we don't need all this actually. So for now, the type, I can just put email, then I will put the form control name. So this is for email, and auth message. I will get rid of the border. I need it, and I want to just reuse this for the message section. Message, and you can just okay. So the control name, this is message. You just add a placeholder and say tell us about yourself. So we have our form, and instead of sign in, we are going to add send. I will cancel in case the user changes their mind. And when someone clicks on cancel, like I said, we don't have href in Angular. Instead, we have this outer link, and what we want to do is to go back to that particular job. I want to use this particular one. Say go back to the job details. Job.id. So I like using this type of router link, especially if I'm navigating to a particular ID of a certain component, because when you use the other router link, it will treat it as interpolation. But this just breaks this into this path and then stroke the ID. So this is much better. And so this button, the type, is submit. So what happens when you click submit? Oh, so this has to have the form group directive, which is job form, and then we're going to also use this directive. I think you're just seeing this for the first time. So if you're referring to probably what is going to happen if you submit this form, so this is why you usually use like on click to refer to events. Yeah, in Angular we write it this way, right? So you can see it is an event, and so we'll call this method and submit. And so this method is not yet created. I'll go into the component right here and create that method. This is how you create a method. And so this returns nothing, so it is void. Instead, we are not going to implement the entire functionality of submitting and going to the database and whatever. We're just going to just show that this works. So if someone submits, tell them that the application has been submitted, and then you want to take them back to the home page, right? And so to navigate, we are going to use another module called router. And if I come in here, so it also gets imported yeah, right here. So it is also part of the router package, and it gets imported, and so we've injected it here. And so we use it this router dot navigate by URL, and I'm going to go to jobs list, right? So now we are done with that. Let's see if this works. So the application was submitted successfully. We go back. Let's go to different job. Get something. Okay, so go to this. click on apply. So it seems there's any issue navigating from the job details, and I don't think we added that. So from job details, which is here, we never added that. So let's add the router links to go to the job contact. To job contacts. .id. Okay, so that should now work, and so you can see how routing works. If I click on this, I go to this particular job, apply for product manager by Invest Solutions. Let's go back, so you should see this. Apply for that data scientist by Data Analytics Corp, and if we go there, we click on that, it is submitted. We go back to the home page. If we click on cancel, then we go back to the page, just to the previous job, just in case someone needs to first look at the details and then they go to apply. So the routing works smoothly as we expect it to work. Yeah, so that's good. In the next video, I'm going to be showing how to create the content for my jobs. Right now, you see there's nothing, but basically it's just going to be just the same for now. It's going to be the same as this, but I want to create a component for a job so that I don't have to do the whole thing again. I will just call a single component called job for just this and this. It will behave differently here, and it will behave differently here. That's it for this video. I think it's already too long. Yeah, thank you guys for watching.